few texts remain shrouded in mystery and intrigue. So mysterious was this book that at the Bohemian monasteries where it was penned deemed it as cursed and its author as conspirator with Satan. This work would become to be known as the Codex Gigas, but because of its seemingly dark origins and eerie depictions, not to mention its literal huge size, the book would quickly earn its nickname as the Devil's Bible. Before we begin, we would like to say thank you for the support you show us. Kindly consider subscribing to our channel and like the video. The legendary book is most famous for some very distinct features. First is its abnormal size in terms of its physical form. It took 160 animal skins to construct and was a heavy book at nearly 80 kilograms. When it was found, it took 2 people to lift it. The book measured 36 inches by 20 inches wide and is almost 9 inches thick. It's also famous for the strange and creepy illustrations of the devil that feature throughout the book. Not the typical red devil with horns that we're used to seeing, but something far more weird and eerie. The book was written by a 13th century monk known as Herman the Recluse in the Benedictine monastery of the Czech Republic. Little is known about Herman the Recluse, but the story behind his involvement goes that he was about to be executed, condemned to be walled up alive, and starved to death. But in an effort to save his own skin, he convinced the abbot, the head of the monks, to spare his life if he could write a book that contained all earthly knowledge as well as a testament to glorify the monastery itself. Tantalized by this suggestion, the abbot agreed to these terms, but on one condition: Herman the Recluse would need to complete the book in a single night. Wasting no time, Herman wrote until midnight, whereby he conceded it would not be possible to complete such a work in a single session. It is here that he conspired with the devil and sold his soul in exchange for the ability to finish the promised work, that which would become known as the Codex Gigas. The devil was thought to live up to his end of the bargain, and the giant book was said to have been completed by Herman in a single night. As a way of gratitude to the devil, Herman created detailed illustrations of what is perceived to be the devil and featured them prominently throughout the book. It has been concluded that in order to recreate the Codex Gigas in normal circumstances, it would take an individual 20 years of non-stop writing to complete. Little else is known about the origin of this book, nor the monk who may have been responsible for it. Many who have studied the book have concluded that it was indeed penned by one individual given the uniformity of the handwriting. The monastery in which it was thought to have been created was destroyed sometime in the 15th century in the Bohemian Wars, and with it the secrets that might have shed more light on the nature of the book. Whilst the book itself was remarkably preserved, records in the book ended 1229, indicating that the book was completed in the 13th century. We know that the Codex was moved from monastery to monastery within Bohemia, before coming to rest in Prague nearly 200 years later, where it formed part of Emperor Rudolf II's collection. By 1648, at the conclusion of the 30 Years' War, the collection was taken by a Swedish army as a spoil of war, where it would wind up in the Swedish Royal Library. An interesting account of the book exists in 1697, where a fire broke out in the Royal Library, causing severe damage to the building and the other works. In an effort to save the Codex from the flames, it was thrown out of the window, where it actually landed on someone. It is believed that during this unceremonious rescuing, some of its pages were torn from the binding and remained lost to this day. But you may be wondering, beside the illustration of the devil and the devil's supposed contribution to the book's completion, what exactly makes this the Devil's Bible? There are no apparent words of Satan nor any thought or evil sentiments contained within the book. In fact, it would seem that Herman the Recluse did not include any new material beyond the devil illustrations that would fulfill his earlier promise to the abbot, that he would incorporate all earthly knowledge and glorify the monastery. Instead, it would appear that Herman the Recluse merely wrote out the Vulgate Bible, both the Old and New Testaments, as well as other popular medieval works, including Flavius Josephus' Antiquities of the Jews, which was a history of the Jewish people, and his work known as the Jewish War, a historical account of the early Jewish-Roman wars. Also included in the Codex is Isidore of Sevillia's Etymology, a diverse work by the Christian bishops' views on earth, the cosmos, war, religion, and the hierarchy of angels and saints. There's also the inclusion of the Chronicle of Cosmos of Prague, a work by the Bohemian historian himself that details the creation of the world and the inception of Christianity in Prague. Amongst these works can also be found medical entries, and the least being 2 medical journals by the physician Constantine the African. Smaller texts, including writings on exorcisms, supposed magic rituals, and a calendar containing a list of saints and notable Bohemian persons, can also be found within the Codex pages. Far from being a devil's Bible, it's more of what Herman the Recluse probably believed were the best sources of earthly knowledge at the time. One might say he made it even more inaccessible, given the book's eventual size. A large book, with the binding itself made of wooden boards, covered in leather, and had metal guards and fittings. We also know that it was composed of 320 leaves of animal skin, 160 of these being from donkeys. There's been talks around the missing 10 pages that some report were torn out during the book's rescue from the fires, where it is thought by some that these contained forbidden knowledge by the devil, and so were removed by the monastery. Perhaps the most compelling feature about the Codex Gigas is the repeated appearances of these ominous devil drawings. Here the devil is depicted as a large and frightful figure that embodies the entirety of hell. He is shown with claws, red-tipped horns, small eyes, and a green head. 2 long red tongues can also be seen protruding from his mouth. You might be thinking that illustrations of the devil weren't exactly a profound thing in the Middle Ages, considering many artists chose to draw him. Was Herman trying to convey some kind of message that he couldn't speak of or put into words? Or had the devil really helped him complete the manuscript in a single night, thus sparing his life? And that these depictions were Herman's way of recognizing the devil as his savior? Do you think Herman completed the book with the aid of the devil? Let me know your thoughts on this Devil's Bible in the comments below, and what you think about this gigantic, supposedly cursed and evil book.